You hate to see it, going ill prepared or perhaps the wrong fleet made it to the battle, but it's all good, they just come back without a scratch. Despite such, with all these shells and torpedoes flying around along with a dramatic death, it makes it sort of hard to believe. Among such raises the question, do shipgirls really die? From the anime Azure Lane, we can say that our shipgirls' riggings are complementary to the wearer, but not rather entirely essential to continue living. Even if their ship has been sunk, it only detaches them from their actual combat abilities. Then what are they? Reaching Commander level 30 unlocks a new area, along with a small cutscene with Akashi. For ships to be able to manifest as humans, the Wisdom Cube allows for the collections of various feelings, emotions and images from an unspecified number of people to take on a physical form. In other words, a collective body. In theory, even if there was a ship that never existed, as long as people's beliefs in their form and function were strong enough, we would be able to manifest them as well. How do we carry out that manifestation? Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that. This may be actual lore, but trusting information from Akashi is dodgy nonetheless. From Ryujo's secretary's story, the shipgirls are warriors born from the will of humanity, given bodies of steel. With the power of the Wisdom Cubes, the spirits of the vessels that fought during the Great War were given human forms. As such, the figure of the ship is a representation of the perception from various feelings, emotions and images from an unspecified number of people. How a ship comes to be is very vague and known little. However, what is known is that a ship's physical state is only able to be manifested by the belief and hope of humanity. Assuming these unspecified number of people have to be alive, had the Sirens been able to successfully wipe out the humans, would there be no more manifesting to take place. Therefore, the shipgirls will cease to exist and ultimately death. To end on that would be rather simple, but there's more to this ocean of mysteries than it seems. In Operation Siren Records, there's extended information of the Wisdom Cube. Its predecessor, called the E-Cube or Energy Cube, was a relatively compact and portable clean energy source that has changed the world for the greater good. Its capability of seemingly infinite energy began solving world problems. However, it wouldn't be long until this would be used for militarization. Eventually, through research, by improving the materials, they succeeded in creating a variant of the E-Cube. By team vote, it was called the Wisdom Cube. In a special environment adjusted from the previous iteration of experiments, by applying a controlled amount of stimulation to the E-Cube, we were able to induce a resonance reaction with the materials in the same environment and maintain stability without interference by the cube's complex fluctuations. From this, we witnessed an entirely new intelligent entity born from the E-Cube. This entity was named Code G. Earlier, under the name Codename Dusk, many military materials were sent en route to Soma's Isle in the Bermuda Triangle, including historical relics such as the Enterprise CV6's anchor under the Reasonable Preservation work. Why were the museum artifacts among the materials of the site where Enterprise was born? Did they just happen to be there, or did someone intentionally leave them there? I can't construct an explanation for either theory. In consequence, this is what made Code G Enterprise. More pertinent to the topic at hand, what is it that gives Enterprise her soul? To draw a conclusion would be because of the materials present. The carrier's anchor was left in the mix. In turn, it assigned this entity its personality, its soul. And how, may you ask? We'll solve this question with another. Is a shipgirl being actively sourced from humanity, or are they now independent from it after being formed? In Rondo at Rainbow's End, Frederick in company with a small audience witnessed the birth of a shipgirl. This was done within a singularity located at Scarpa Flow. It is another branch, a world parallel to ours. But this gateway does not lead directly to another world, but rather a mirror sea of sorts that projects the records of the natural calculation system. Our mirror sea is a Siren-controlled alternate space, whereas they can manipulate reality to allow for wanted scenarios. The natural calculation system was first mentioned a couple times in the Virgin Chessboard, later reintroduced in Pledge of the Radiant Court, and most recently Violet Temper's Blooming Licorice. This system allows for complete Siren control of every possibility in all timelines, including manifesting events into other timelines or into pocket dimensions, which are the mirror seas. What you see here indeed transpired in the past, but we did not rip open the fabric of time. It is not necessarily our past, but rather one of many possibilities. This aligns with the function of the natural calculation system. Inside the singularity is another Siren experimental site with the flooded remains of both Ironblood and Royal Navy ships. The waters still linger with the emotions that were sunk, Frederick using with what's left, their joy, their sorrow, their melancholy, their anger. Each sound that echoes through this hollow sky gives form to their suffering. With only this as a basis, she manages to bring forth the ship's essence without any unspecified number of people. Merely from the husk of the deceased ships, which retain the emotions of the deceased human sailors. This meaning they are detached from humanity's sustenance after forming, or even without it all. This also concludes Code G's reasoning over soul. It is possible that Anchor retained the various feelings, emotions and images of the carrier's service during wartime. This was then collected by the Wisdom Cube, resonating with the object. These infinite number of possibilities from the natural calculation system open for potentially infinite shipgirls to be made. There's nothing that states they can't revive them the same way they were born. Considering the Wisdom Cube's properties, it was stated as an infinite energy source that comes from a higher dimension from ours. This rules out the possibility of ships dying from a mortality issue of age. Even if they don't follow after humanity's demise, they are still destined to die at some point in the future. In most recent event, Violet Tempest. Shinano has seen the same dream over and over again. From that single reality, we are destroyed again and again in countless futures. A black tornado that seeks to devour the ocean. Horrendous beasts that defy the power of the continent and crush our destined future. There is no escape from them. Sound familiar? These repetitive dreams where they're destroyed again and again in countless futures are in fact not from the Sirens but from some alternate being from a different timeline, similar to the Metas. Arc Royal Meta survived the Siren onslaught at the cost of everyone else in her timeline. In a sense, we can say that there is death upon a large scale. We can discern there is a function of death, as Armageddon is told to be and is deceased in the show. In the story of Crimson Echoes, Armageddon going out to save Kaga from her eventual treaty shackles, only to be shown the era of battleships had long gone. After which, it is said a Wisdom Cube had been severely damaged from a long-lasting sickness, most likely in reference to her history. Armageddon had been in mid-conversion until it was struck by a devastating earthquake, facing substantial damage upon the hull. It was deemed unusable, halting all conversion works and 8 months later scrapped. It is only in these somewhat historically accurate events where ships die, following a planned or in other words a pre-prepared death. In contrast to the fictional events, there is yet to be any loss, other than the absolute annihilation of Siren models and mass-produced vessels. Certain lines from a multitude of ships reveal they do retain memories, and vividly so of their previous demise before arriving in your port. For the sake of this video, I've chosen a small reference being between Hammond and I-168. During World War II, the submarine had successfully snuck by USS destroyers on patrol, launching 4 Type 93 torpedoes towards the limping Yorktown. 1 missed, 2 hitting the heavily damaged carrier, and 1 in the center of Hammond, which sank almost immediately. When sorted together, their lines do suggest and affirm the retainment of ship memories. Hammond's quotes and throughout lore has been especially attached to Yorktown. In Skybound Oratorio, Jean Bart has had a close encounter with death. Their experience is as follows. So is this heaven or is this hell? Perhaps that is the wrong question. As a ship, perhaps another destination awaits me. At least I can confidently say this infinite black void all around me is nothing what's like described in the Irish Orthodoxy. This does support the theory of shipgoers being ordinary humans outside their riggings, and death is not completely unreachable. But back to the game, shipgirls will not die via in-game mechanics, thus they cannot ultimately die. The answer should be clear already. Despite being able to restore HP during a sortie, afterwards there is no ultimate repair function, unlike its similar and older counterpart, Conqueror. Fortunately for you, Angeline is more focused towards fanservice than realism.